Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Dietitian Career Success. I'm your host, Stacey Dunn-Emke with NutritionJobs.com, DietitianSalaries.com, and ExerciseJobs.com. I always forget to bring up that one, but that one has been around for 25 years, as well as NutritionJobs.com. So welcome to another edition. Have you ever thought about working as a virtual assistant for another healthcare professional or another dietitian? Then you are in luck, because I've got a special guest on today who's going to walk us through how to be successful as a virtual assistant or a VA at working for a dietitian or whoever you might be working for. So please welcome Kat Durston. Hi, Kat.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I am super excited that you were able to carve out some time for us today and to share with our audience about how to be successful as a virtual assistant. So maybe you can back up a bit and tell us a little bit about your background and how you got involved in this whole business of virtual assistants.
Yeah, of course. I love sharing the story. Wow, thinking back, like after high school, I got actually into a career in art and design. And that is a really big part of my story because I always had this very creative background. And I really wanted that to kind of come through in whatever career I did. And being a designer and an artist does not make a lot of money. It was not, I didn't have a very great career path ahead of me there, at least at the moment. I couldn't think of one. And so you always loved health and wellness. And I was like, let me, saw kind of some stuff out there about being a dietitian, nutritionist. And I was like, you know what? I love food and health. And so I was like, let me go back to school, get my second degree in nutrition and dietetics. And that was really the beginning of my journey, was being a college student, going to school for nutrition in my DPD program. And like many other college students, I was like, okay, I need to pay for this internship. I need to pay to live. I have bills to pay. What can I do to like make money, but also get experience in the field? I really wanted a competitive internship application. I wanted to get experience in nutrition, but I had this creative thing on the back end as well. And I was like, okay, what can I do that kind of mixes this creative art background with some great nutrition experience? And so I was kind of going through the internet looking for opportunities, and I found a couple dietitians who just wanted some volunteer help with social media work, blog writing. And I said, great, I can do that. Let me try that out. And so for about a year, I just did volunteer work. So I was essentially their VA, although at the time it wasn't even called that. I was just an intern for them doing this type of work. And I found out, wow, I'm kind of good at this. It's fun. I love doing it. They were so grateful for the help. And one of them even told me, hey, you should start charging for this. And I was like, really? Okay, let me look into that. That sounds amazing. I knew I needed some money. I wanted to get experience. So I kind of looked around and I saw these VA postings, like dietitians would post. They're, hey, I need a VA, I need a virtual assistant. So I said, great, let me apply. So I would just start sending my resume out to all of these people. Well, I never would hear back. I would kept getting ghosted. I would send it out. I swear it was like one summer before my senior year, I sent it out to probably 50 dietitians. I swear I did not hear back from one of them. And I was getting discouraged. And I was like, okay, what can I do differently? There has to be something that I can do to get an answer. And so I, like many business owners, had to pivot a little bit and said, what if I get an LLC, create a company name, make a logo on Canva for free, and make this look like a business? Obviously, applying as Kathryn Durston was not getting me anywhere. So what if I reach out to these people as a company? And so I titled it Flourish Virtual Assistants, made this little logo on Canva, made a little portfolio, and then started sending that out when people wanted an assistant. And sure enough, I started hearing back and I said, okay, great. It made me look professional. People liked that idea. And so people kind of kept coming in through the door. And I think it was showing me that there was a lot of need for this job. And so while I was a student, going to my classes, I was doing VA work on my lunch break, in between classes, on the weekend, Sunday night, I would carve out 5 hours just to do my VA clients. And that was really how it all began. And slowly, more and more dietitians started hearing about Flourish. They said, hey, I need a virtual assistant. I need social media help, or I need help with admin work. And that was when I actually started building the team, because I said, okay, I knew that I couldn't take all these people on myself. I had an abundance of work to give. And so I said, you know what? Why don't I hire a couple other nutrition students and interns that are also creative? let's see if we can, grow this thing and kind of supply and demand. If the demand is there, let's supply them with the people. And sure enough, over the past, we're actually going to hit 4 years now in September since kind of that time I started, which is really exciting. I have grown this business, and I even graduated, passed my RD exam, and then was able to just full time go into this business. It was amazing. Like right after passing, didn't have to apply for new jobs. I had a career, there and ready, which was great. And now we are so blessed to be 13 of us on the team, which is amazing. I kind of run everything, and still to this day, I run the VA team, and then I also am a VA myself. So I have some of my personal clients who I still love and do VA work for, some that have been with me since I was a college student, which is amazing. And so I do love kind of sharing that story about how it all started and it came to be. So,
Kat, I love that story. It's so juicy. But I think, sort of to summarize, you took a shadowing position. Essentially, you were shadowing other dietitians because you wanted to get that experience, because you have this baseline curiosity, a baseline talent of perseverance, my goodness, and pivoted then into not just like you being able to work as a VA, but then to help bring on other people who would be interested in this position as well, and helped market that to other dietitians who needed this help. So that's really great. I'm just like, I'm listening to all of these skills, these talents that you have that other dietitians may have, or other dietetic students may have, that they could think, hey, I think I've got that perseverance. I've got some curiosity. I can pivot to whatever I need to do. And I think that word pivot is such a key word when you're an entrepreneur or you're wanting to work for yourself. You're always responding to the market, right? Like, so you described sending out queries to people, asking them if they might be interested. That didn't work so well. So you pivoted as an entrepreneur with your entrepreneur mindset, and you ended up sort of, it sounds like you really changed your marketing and really showed in a different way what it was that you did. Well, you actually, started an LLC, but it sounds like you really made the pivot there in and how you wanted to direct your marketing and to show that what these services were. So maybe step back a little bit and tell us, so I know what your skills are now, but if someone wants to work as a VA, virtual assistant for another person, as a dietitian, that's probably your biggest market. What are some skill sets that this person needs to have, the person wanting to work as a VA? What would you say are some really key skills? I think maybe interpersonal skills, but also you can talk about like having Canva skills set as well.
Yeah, I do think if you want to be a successful and great VA, you do really need to master VA skills, because people are going to be hiring you for these skills. And if you want to retain your clients, you want to grow, you really do need to kind of almost be an expert at these things. And that was why, for me, doing that year of shadow work. Now, I don't recommend that for everyone. I don't think we all need to go and do a year of free work. But for me at the time, it allowed me to grow those skills and practice and build a portfolio. And I always say the portfolio, especially in the first, honestly, 2.5 years of my business, was very key for me getting people, because it was proof of concept. It was proof that I could design, I could make Canva graphics. It showed them that in a visual way. Whereas resumes are great, but I think when you're in a VA creative space, that portfolio was that extra step beyond the resume that really shows them what you can do. And so I think that having the skill set to be able to build on these skills that you want to offer. And that's why it's important to think as a VA, what skill services do you want to offer to dietitians? Do you want to do administrative work where you're helping them with their schedules and their calendar and their email inbox? If you want to do that, I would definitely recommend familiarizing yourself with Google Workspace, all of the popular EMR systems, so electronic medical record systems, Practice Better, Healthy. You're going to want to really know those. And they have a lot of free tutorials out there about those, so that you can help private practice dietitians with that admin work side. But if you want to do more of the creative side, like I did, Canva is going to be big. Again, a lot of free tutorials on learning Canva. If you want to offer writing or copywriting skills, you could do blogging for dietitians. You could do search engine optimization. You could even get into website work. That's something that I do a little bit of, website updating. So you would want to learn some of those key big website platforms, WordPress, Squarespace, kind of that tech side as well. And then marketing is going to be huge. Not only learning how to market yourself, but how to market for these dietitians who are hiring you. So you might want to learn email marketing skills. So if you're not familiar with that, that's, helping someone build an email list or send out newsletters to their emails. So Flowdesk, ConvertKit are great platforms you'd want to learn. So that's why it's really important to think as a VA. It's almost an umbrella term, I like to call it. It's such a broad term that you kind of have to decide which skills and services do I want to offer, and then become an expert in those few things. And so my tip for people when you're thinking of what services to offer is consider, what is it that you like to do? What is it that you're good at doing? And what is it that you can kind of offer somebody else, and really thinking that through. And when you decide on, after thinking that through, then really build out those skills. And maybe you only start with one or two things. Maybe you're just doing social media work and Canva work, and that's your first thing. And then you can really focus on gaining those skills in Canva and with social media platforms. And that's a great place to start. And then you can slowly build out from there. So I feel like that's more of those kind of tangible skills to offer the services. And then, of course, being a VA, I mean, people are coming to you and you need to make their life easier. That's the point of a VA. Sometimes people say they hire a VA and it's more work for them. And that's not what you want. You want to be that person coming in and really taking work off their plate. And this is a big part of why I think Flourish is so successful, is the messaging I lead with. Dietitians are busy. They don't want more work added to their plate. And if you can make it feel like this weight is coming off their shoulder, they're going to want to hire you. So you need to have organization systems in place, a streamlined onboarding process. You need to be very organized yourself. You need to know your messaging, know how to convey that. So I think just organization is super important as a VA, because that is a lot of the work that we're doing. And so I would say, if you're someone who really likes being organized, detail oriented, that's the type of person someone wants to hire. And even if that doesn't come natural to you, I think that's definitely a skill you can build on over time as well.
I'm glad that you mentioned about the organizational skills. I think that is a really big key. I've heard several dietitians who start off with a VA or have the idea that they want to work with a VA, and then they don't follow through with it. Or maybe they get somebody who's never been a VA before, who hasn't had some training in how to work the logistics of working as a virtual assistant for somebody. And then the communication just sort of drops, and months go by or weeks go by and there's no communication. So I think the idea is, I don't think you have to be like overly, over the top organized. Yep. So if you're sort of sub-level organized, I think you can still ramp up a little bit. And that might just be something very simple. And I think one way to think about it maybe is like how you would work with an adolescent. Maybe we were talking about my kids ahead of hitting record, and maybe not like a college age student or a high schooler, but maybe like an adolescent, where the adolescent being the person you're working for, actually. So you as a VA working with them, and just set up weekly meetings or every other week, whatever the cadence might be for that meeting, but just making sure that, and then also having a tool where you're communicating with. I use Trello a lot for communicating with people that help me. And that's an easy platform to learn. That's something you could do. It's very simple to learn, actually. But if the person you're working for doesn't already have something in place, then maybe you can suggest something. So just sort of holding their hand a little bit. It seems kind of funny because you're working for them, but in essence, they are so bogged down, this person that's employed you, that you need to help them out a little bit, even in managing yourself. So I think
honestly,
that's really helpful. I'm going to circle back to the portfolio. So you mentioned that that's a really helpful marketing tool, I think, for a VA to have when advertising their services or getting new people on board. Tell me what that looks like. Is that an actual website? Is that on their LinkedIn profile? What does that portfolio look like?
Yeah, so I like to say, in my opinion, again, my experience is the simpler the better. I actually like a plain Google Slides template, white background, black text, nothing too crazy, very simple, where you're going to maybe add your name, the name of your company, and then have your visual examples on each of the different slides. This is exactly what my portfolio looks like. Different examples. So categorize it, whether it's Instagram posts, Instagram stories, Pinterest pins, have your different categories, couple examples of each. Not too long. We don't want to overwhelm anybody, but we want to give them enough different view of what your skills are. So I like having very simple. That's why I think white background, nothing too busy. You want your designs to speak for themselves. And so I like to keep it very simple. I always like to include a couple client testimonials at the end. If you're brand new, you don't have a testimonial, maybe you reach out to a past recommendation, a job you were at, someone that you were precepting you, anyone maybe that could write a couple nice words about you. That's great to include at the end. And then, of course, how to contact you at the end as well. But I like the Google Slides because then what I recommend is importing that as a PDF and attaching that to emails when you reach out to people. So if you're doing a cold outreach, or they said, hey, I'm open to hearing more about you, you're emailing them, attach it as a PDF, because I find with links, people these days get a little weird about clicking links in emails. They don't, especially in cold outreach, they're kind of a little bit like, oh, what is this? What kind of website is this? So I think the PDF works nicely because they can open it right up in their email. Again, you want this to be as easy as possible for the person clicking this email. So just having the PDF right open that they can scroll through really quick, see a good idea of what you're doing, not making it too busy, not making it something you have to, make a whole website or spend a lot of time on. I think really simple. So that's what I've done. And that's how we got, like I said, majority of our clients the first couple of years was that portfolio and sending that out and that kind of proof of concept. And so I recommend keep it simple and just let your designs kind of shine for themselves. And if you don't have work yet, again, you're new, create some. Go on Canva, create some work for yourself, your social media, go and practice and just create some great designs. This doesn't have to be work you did for a specific client. This could just be your work. So don't overthink it too much. I think a lot of us have school projects we could use, or if you were a hospital clinical dietitian who made some patient handouts, include those in there, flyers that you made, marketing materials, anything that really shows your capabilities, I think is great to add in there. And then I also say, have a little line that says, if you want to see more examples, email this email. And then that leaves the door open that if they didn't get to see what they wanted to see, maybe they'll reach out and say, hey, I'd love to see a blog from you, or I'd love to see this from you. And they'll kind of reach out and you can always give them a little bit more. So that's usually what I recommend and what I've seen work really well.
I'm wondering if you could put a hyperlink to the shared document, if somebody did want to go to that hyperlink on your LinkedIn profile. Like in your work experience, you say that you're a virtual assistant. These are your skills that you have, maybe a couple featured highlights there, the skills where you can actually put in that you're versed in ConvertKit, for example, or whatever it might be, or Canva, or email marketing campaigns. That you have a hyperlink to this portfolio so people can see it, where it's not a PDF on your LinkedIn profile necessarily, because you can forget about it and not update it, or the one that's there on your profile is not the updated version. And then you keep this dynamic one that's over on the other side too. So being just sort of thinking through, like, how can someone look spiffy and talented in a lot of different areas. So I like that marketing. All right, so we've been talking a lot about what this VA might look like. It could be somebody who's in their internship. It could be somebody who's a student. It could be somebody who's brand new dietitian and wanting to add some extra hours. I think we've been focusing on this person who is on the low end of experience. But I think this position could be for all different, like I could be a VA for somebody. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Completely agree. I think there's actually a hole in the market right now looking for VAs that are more expert VAs, maybe premium, higher price point. And that is the direction we're slowly going with Flourish, hiring on people that have more specialized skills, that are dietitians, that are great at copywriting, great at Canva, or really great at social media, those more specialized skills. I think dietitians do want to hire that and they're willing to invest in that. And so if you're somebody who maybe you're a second career person and you had this other career where you learned some amazing skills, maybe you're an operations specialist and that's what you do, I think there's a very big need for that in the space. So this can be your full-time job. I think that's a misconception that VA work is not just a side hustle. I have multiple people on my team that are full-time. I'm a full-time, VA business owner myself. This was something I did full-time right after passing my exam and after my internship. So I think that is definitely a job you can do full-time. And there are people that want those more high-level VAs that have these expertise, especially if you can really nail down skills in search engine optimization, website updating or designing, those more specialized premium skills. I think there are dietitians who will invest in that. So if that's you and you're like, hey, I want to be a VA, but maybe I want to make sure I'm charging my worth, or I have these really high level skills, or you want to get there one day, I think there's room for that in what's going on right now.
I'm just fascinated by this. I think it's super great. And what's interesting is I feel like you are a wealth of knowledge for people. And so tell us a little bit about your ability to mentor other people who want to be a VA.
Yeah, I think because I did this all myself and I started from step one. I never had a business coach. I never had an investor. I bootstrapped this company myself. I started from the beginning, like I said, sending my resume to everyone from client one to now over 350 clients. I feel like I went through the motions myself, and that gave me such good insight. I also think Flourish is unique in that we almost made this space for ourselves in this VA world in this company. And I think that gave me so much insight into what clients are looking for from a VA, the messaging that you want to convey as a VA if you want to market yourself. I think I've really nailed down that marketing aspect of it. And so for a VA who just wants to get started and you're not sure where to start, how to market, or where to find clients is probably the most common question I get. Where do I even find people? I like to mentor them, help them out, and give them my advice and really see them thrive. I mean, there have been people I've mentored who came to me for, 2 mentoring sessions, and now I see them doing this thriving business, and it's really amazing to see. So I do offer one-on-one mentoring calls if people are ever interested in that. And then we have an ebook as well, how to get started as a VA for dietitians, which is a great resource for people who want to, start diving into this world and maybe aren't sure where to start.
Ooh, okay. So tell us more about this ebook that you have. So it's about how to become a VA.
Yes, for
Awesome.
dietitians specifically, yes. So
Okay.
it takes you through my story, more details about that, and then into step one of creating your portfolio. I have a whole guide on how to do that. I talk you
Thank
through how to,
you.
yes, how to update your resume. I call it a VA focused resume is what I like to call it, where you're showcasing more VA skills on a resume rather than maybe clinical skills. So I teach them that. I teach you how to shine in interviews and discovery calls. We also go through contracts, invoicing templates, pricing. There's a whole section on packages and pricing, which I know is a really hot topic in this space as well. So I go through all of that, and then where to find clients and market yourself. So I give my best tips on where we found clients, where I'd recommend being. So really is kind of a complete guide, 40 plus pages of how you can get started, and even has a business checklist and step-by-step, start an LLC, get this, like it really takes you through the step-by-step process if you're brand new to even starting a business. So I do think it can be a really great resource if you want to, have that guidelines right there for you.
Okay, great. So you've got one-on-one mentoring where we can actually work with you directly, or you've got this fantastic ebook that seems like it's walking somebody through the whole process. Can you give us some little inside tips on what are some best practices for marketing yourself, for getting that first job, or to get another gig if you want to make this your full-time, how you're working as a dietitian? Can you give us a couple little marketing tips that might work?
Yeah, so I think VA jobs can be unique that there isn't always going to be, there are postings out there that you can apply to, but I think it's one of those jobs where you have to almost create the jobs. People need to know you exist, and they need to know what skills you offer, because if they know you're around, they know what skills you can do, they will come to you and want to work with you. And so a lot of people don't know they need a VA, but they really do. They don't know that they need the help, but they do. And so I think part of our job is that awareness of how we can market and let people know we exist. So I love social media, of course, Instagram, dietitian Facebook groups, LinkedIn. Get where dietitians are and start posting about your services, posting about how you can help them, what you do. Create maybe a more VA focused Instagram, or on your LinkedIn, your personal one, you can post on there, get in these dietitian groups, and just be a dietitian in the community. I think sometimes people don't do that enough, but my first few years, I was speaking at multiple conferences, I was attending conferences, I was going to webinars, I was going to my local academy group, anything that involved dietitians, I was there because I knew my goal was to get our name out there as much as possible, because that's my ideal client is dietitians. And so if that's your ideal client as well, my best marketing tip is to just get yourself out there so they know that you exist. I think there's, again, social media is a great way to do that. But you can also do that through your website. You could do blogging, and SEO is a great way to kind of get people to your site, having those good keywords. We do have some good keywords. If you search virtual assistant for dietitians, we are the first website that comes up. I think that helps us a lot with those online website inquiries. So that's always a great idea. Start, a simple free website, have people coming to you through that is great. And then reaching out to your network. So your past preceptors, like I've mentioned in the past, people you interned with, anyone that might need a VA or have a colleague, I try to be mindful with cold calling or cold DMing. Maybe obviously you don't want to bug them too much, but I think it's never a bad idea. Just like, here's who I am, here's my portfolio, here's what I offer. If you need help or you know of anyone, let me know. So I think those are some of the key cornerstone marketing points that I would use, aside from just going and being active in places people might post. So follow dietitians on Instagram. Some will post on their story, hey, I'm looking for a VA, I'm looking for a marketing manager. So follow your favorite dietitians, keep up with them, keep up in those Facebook groups. People post in those all the time saying, hey, I need a VA. Make sure you're the one, first or second one in that group. I mean, I have my PA who goes through those groups and will reply. I'll go and reply. So, you got all hands on deck there, just making sure that you're kind of, again, at the top of people's mind when they need somebody. So
I love this idea. I would just, as you were saying this, I was thinking, oh, what about leveraging a LinkedIn live events or giving a presentation on how you could help this person, how you could help somebody with whatever your expertise is. And I think also sometimes people who are wanting to hire some assistants are thinking that maybe it's a 30-hour-a-week job or a 40-hour-a-week job, and they may not be able to afford that. But I think what I'm hearing from you is that it doesn't need to be that much. There are VAs out there who will work 5 hours a week or 10 hours a week or 2 hours a week. I think there's just a wide range of how a VA can provide assistance to somebody. So from both perspectives. So I think being able to tap into LinkedIn might be a way to share some of that information as well. So that's really good.
I agree. Yeah, there's a lot of dietitian business owners on LinkedIn. I think that's the perfect place. I've been trying to do a little more with my LinkedIn presence. I feel like that went on the back burner for a lot, but I've been getting more in that and seeing good success there. And getting to know dietitian business owners too in the B2B space. There's a lot of us in this B2B space, and they're kind of a good key because I've gone and business coaches have had me go and speak to their cohorts at their business coaching calls, or have done a webinar or, a Facebook group live. And those are great ways because, again, dietitians are their audience. So that's your ideal client. Don't be afraid to reach out to partnership. We did a partnership with Living Plate, which was a meal planning software. That's kind of random, but it was the perfect partnership because they're ideal clients dietitians. So you can think of internships, like who you can kind of reach out to that might know dietitians, and how you can get in front and talk to their audience is a great way to get your name out there too.
Yeah. Kat, you've been just a wealth of information, but you're also super inspiring. Like, I want to be a VA now.
Like, you're great at it.
There's a lot that you're able to offer people. So I'm incredibly thankful, and on behalf of everyone who's listening to this as well, just thank you for your expertise. Thank you for starting this agency. I know that you already have some VAs within your agencies, but I love all of the resources that you have for people who want to become a virtual assistant, people who are thinking about hiring a virtual assistant. I think you've got some really great resources. And everybody, I have all of the links. I will eventually have all the links for you in the descriptions down below. So do check out what Kat has to offer. Connect with her on LinkedIn, connect with her through her email list too. She's got a really fantastic newsletter. I receive it, and I always learn a few things in there. She's got some great tips as a business owner, as a person who provides virtual assistant content and information. So I think it's just a very valuable resource. So Kat, thank you so much, and just very appreciative of your time today.
Yeah, thank you, Stacey. It's been great, and thank you so much for having me.
All right. I hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.
Yes. Bye.